Good morning. This is Velvely Harity. The show is called Let's Talk Life, and we're broadcasting out of the still beautiful St. Petersburg, Florida. That's a private joke for those of you who follow me. Anyway, here we are. The show is For the Love of Dogs. I think it's number 7 or 8 in the series. And the series has been very popular. And I've got 2 men here that I've always admired. I brought them together because the subject is complicated. They're each going to share their perception about basically population control among the animal world. I think that would be an umbrella statement about that. I also want to thank my sponsor, Joe, over at Second & Second, UPS. It's an amazing full-service UPS store, and they happen to be now open on Sundays. And believe me, folks, it's not too late to be thinking about what you're going to ship for the holidays, because they're the premier shipper for all of us over the holiday season. So thank you. And by the way, UPS is full service, and by that I mean you can get notarized, you can get your passport photos. They've got mailboxes for you, all the shipping things you need. They have a very cool selection of greeting cards and supplies. So think about them. UPS Second & Second South. They've been here for a long time. They helped build St. Pete's, and I'm very grateful that they're my sponsor. I also want to thank Neil Van Erd, as I do every time because of the theme song. Neil's out of New York, and when I did a call for a theme song, he surfaced along with about a dozen others. But Neil's the one that really had it together, and I felt would do this. And as you can see, he did a great theme song. So let's hear it for Neil. Okay. Thank you, Neil. Love you. So For the Love of Dogs, my 2 guests today, Andy Kline and Dusty Showers, are deep into the animal rescue world. In animal protection, you name it. If there's something on 4 legs around, they will be in some way involved. They're the go-to guys. They've created, in a way, their own monsters by being so accessible and helpful with rescues. But, as we all know, things are really getting out of hand. And somebody sent me a list 2 days ago on the actual deaths of dogs that have been euthanized. And I have to tell you, I was in a state of shock when I read it. I think it was like 34,000 labs, 10,000 German Shepherds, beautiful, lovely border collies, lots of pit bulls, but lots of other lots of other breeds that we all love and admire. And these dogs are unable to find permanent homes. It's gotten out of hand. So we're going to talk about that. And I think I've asked Andy to lead off. He's going to tell you about himself. And then we're going to talk about the council meeting he went to in Dunedin just the other day. So Andy, please introduce yourself.
Hello, Velva and Dusty. Anyway, thank you for having me here on the show today. My name is Andy Kline. I run Odessa Wildlife Rescue up in Odessa, Florida. We care for now approximately over 350 animals that we give forever homes to, from people that no longer want homes, or no longer have homes, that people want to care for them anymore. But I got into animals about 30 years ago with my wife, Brenda, and we rescued dogs and cats, many dogs and cats over the years. So that's how we started. And we got some property, and we got a little miniature horse, and it ended up into everything from alpacas to zebras and every kind of wildlife in between. So that's where we're at right now. But getting back to the topic of the show, is dogs. We're going to talk about cats too, or just dogs?
Well, listen, start with dogs, but it's
okay.
The idea of the council meeting is thought was interesting story.
Well, we have a good friend of ours, actually a friend of Dusty and myself, Elizabeth Olson, with Rescue Pink Rescue. That's what she does. She does a rescue for free spay and neuters. That's what she does for dogs and cats. So she does a lot of great work, phenomenal stuff around the area here.
Where is she located?
She's in Palm Harbor.
Okay.
Okay. She runs Rescue Pink, 501c nonprofit. So that's what she does, and she gives free spay and neuters to people that can no longer, they can't afford it for whatever reason. They come to her, and she provides that service. Again, she's getting a little overwhelmed, just like people like Dusty and myself, where she provides a service like that, and then all of a sudden the cat or the dog goes in for the spay and neuter, the free spay and neuter, and all of a sudden it has other issues. It needs other vet attention. And all of a sudden the $20, $30 spay and neuter bill becomes hundreds of dollars for other issues. That's thrown on her again because she took it upon herself to give this person that has no money a free spay and neuter.
Let me ask you a quick question. I ask this because my daughter's a vet in Chicago. How many of these people leave their animal with her, never come and get them? Did she talk about that?
One day maybe you should have her on a show and she'll talk about all that. Because I'm not but every day, I hear all the issues that's around that. She's trying to do a great thing, but so many people take advantage to situations. And use rescues, use people to get a lot of things that it's hard to explain.
It's okay.
It's a lot deeper subject than that. But anyway, to get back to what happened was last night we had another council meeting. Elizabeth did this whole thing, worked hard for months with the city council in Dunedin. And she's done this 5 other times already and has had victories. And where there's no more pet stores in Dunedin that are going to be able to sell purebred breeds dogs out of the pet stores, because we all know they're coming from puppy mills around the country. And there's large puppy mills that are pumping out dogs by the thousands. And I think if you haven't, there's videos of this online. You can see these puppy mills that people go into and secretly and film what's going on in these puppy mills. And some of these dogs are just bred to have puppies their whole life, and they never seen the ground, they never touched grass, they never walked on the ground. They're just stuck in cages all the time. So this is another victory. We were sitting at the meeting last night hearing both sides of the story, and the council on this one was unanimous vote that they voted to have no retail stores, pet stores in Dunedin, to stop that. So what happens is the pet stores can sell dogs or cats, but they have to come from the Humane Society or from a rescue. So
that's cool.
Yeah, this is going to help get all these dogs, cats from all these rescues, and most of them are no kill, but there's places out there that they kill these dogs and stuff. So hopefully, we'll see a lot more of that coming through the pet stores, because they're still going to need some inventory to sell their dogs and have dogs, but they're going to be rescue dogs that need it, and no breeder dogs. So the only way a person's going to get in these cities is to get dogs from breeders, that you actually go to the breeder's home in your own hometown. You see the breeding dogs, you see them, and that's the way it should be. We're not trying to stop breeding. We're just trying to stop the puppy mills from what they do.
Absolutely.
Right. So that meeting went real well last night. So that's gonna, if we continue this fight, if she continues this fight, which is a tough fight to do and hard, and she wants to continue it, but you got to go city to city to city just to keep doing this.
I will gladly have her on the show.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah. So.
Okay, let's introduce Dusty now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think that's kind of a light, a little ray of light on this dark subject. When I read this list of euthanized dogs, it was pretty overwhelming.
I got to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
And being in the rescue world, and let's just talk about dogs. I've had many dogs. I don't know, 15, 20 dogs, 30 dogs over the years. I don't even know anymore. We have a pet cemetery on our property with hundreds of stones of pets that we've buried over the years. But doing what we do, I find, the stories I hear why people need to get rid of their animals. Some are really hard luck stories, some are hard stories, but most of them in general are stories that I don't want to hear anymore. Like, I can't, the dog I'm allergic to now. Now you're allergic to a dog? I mean, really? So, the stories I hear, they're allergic to dog. They have to move to another apartment or a different place that doesn't allow dogs. So they get rid of their dog. And those stories really upset me. But the other stories that I do get are people that don't want to deal with the end of life of a dog. We've taken many dogs in where when I hear how old they are, they say, you're surrendering your dog to us. How old is it? Well, it's 10 years, 12 years, 14 years. And they make up a story why they want to surrender the dog. This real story is, that I feel, is they don't want to deal with the end of life of the pet. And it could be from, they don't want to go through the emotional side of it. They don't want to go through the expense of it. They don't want to deal with any of it, so there are other choices, either to put the dog down or to give it to someone like us, where I will sit there and be with the dog for its last breath. And I've done that many, many times. So I have no fear of that. I have no emotions over it. I go through it and help, be there for the dog for the end, where a lot of people can't. And I get that, I guess. But that's another part of it that I don't like to hear. Why people have animals and they'll have them for all these years and they can't deal with the end of it. And I get a lot of those stories now.
Do you think this is going to sound like a dumb question, but this is really interesting and significant as a cultural issue, psychological issue, sociological issue, and animal issue? Do you think there should be hospice for dogs?
I think it would be great.
I mean, why not?
There is.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that. We're going to segue. But that's really interesting. I've had things die in my arms.
Right.
Mother, daughter, Miss Nina. So, but the idea of not being there for that moment is anathema to me. How could you not be there?
I mean, for me personally, the dogs we've raised over the years, that I just wanted to be there for that last breath, and I've had that.
Me too. I've
had that happen so many times. It's just a great feeling, Okay. And I know everybody's different with dealing with death and pet deaths, and some of them don't want to deal with it and look at it, or even bury the dog. We bury our own animals. Some get cremated, not by us, but I mean, some other people cremate their animals, and I understand that and why. But for me, it's different. I want to be there for the last breath, hold the animal, talk to it. And we wait actually, 48 hours. Some people think that's long, but we wait till the spirit's out of the dog, and we have a nice burial for each of our animals.
That's wonderful. Do you have a ritual?
We do. Brenda does. She'll actually either take a piece of her jewelry, we put them in a box, and we a crate or whatever we want to do. That depends on the size of the animal. And she puts blankets all around it with a little pillow. And she actually puts a piece of her jewelry in there with it. If she doesn't have the jewelry, she'll go out to the store and buy the piece of jewelry. And
well, of course, it needs money to get to the other side, right?
Has a piece of jewelry.
That's the bride.
And some pictures. We take pictures of the animals while we had them, and those pictures are put in with the animals.
Well, listen, I put gold in my daughter's.
Sounds a little crazy,
listen,
but that's what we do.
I got it because, you never know. They might need passage to the other side, and, jewelry will do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really, really interesting. And let me ask a question. I'll probably ask you the same question, Dusty. Do you think it should be harder to adopt?
Well, what's going on now that's the other side of this, the pet store issue. You can just walk in, if you got cash, you walk in and buy a $600 dog at the pet stores, and there's no qualifications. They don't come out and check your house out. They don't look at anything. You got the money. It's a retail pet store. They just sign some papers, and I'm assuming I haven't bought a pet from a pet store, but you just walk out with the dog. Well, the rescues have a lot of rules that you got to follow, and they actually come out a lot of these and come out and inspect your home and see where the dog's going to live and how you're going to care for the dog and your financial situation and what make sure the dog's going to be there forever. I mean, that's what I think the rescues pretty much try to, when they're trying to foster out dogs or find homes, forever home dogs for people, they do qualify people. I'm pretty sure they do. Most of them do.
Okay, good. Well, this is all very interesting. We're going to take a break for a minute. We're going to switch gears. One thing came up as Andy was talking was about the idea of, I remember when my mom was dying, she was in my home. She had a dog named Gretchen. And one of the last things she said to me was to be sure to take care of Gretchen. So, I mean, there's people pass and their dogs don't. So there's that issue too. There's so many issues about this.
My mother-in-law had 24 cats when she passed.
Really?
Okay, so they came over to our house. Yeah. So yeah, I know.
I'm going to hold comment.
I know how that is.
Okay, thank you so much. Dusty, you've got a lot to say. You've been here before. I'm sure my listening audience remembers you because that was a pretty strong show. But can you talk about what you talked about earlier? Introduce yourself again for the new listeners. I'm going to switch this around for you.
Hi, guys. I have a company called Creepy Creatures Pest and Wildlife, and we focus on wildlife issues, humane wildlife management or nuisance wildlife management. And then we do some pest control as well. But, my side projects are animal rescues, whether it's wildlife or domestic animals like dogs or cats. And I'm kind of part of the underground rescue group where I'm not affiliated with any specific rescue. I work with a lot of them. I'm not a quote full-time rescuer, so there's a lot of people out there doing a lot more than what I do. I happen to have decent visibility, so I get more credit than is due. But there, I try to support the people that are really dedicated to doing. Like you go out to Andy's place, it's kind of like Disneyland, but it's authentic. You as soon as you walk in, you're greeted by peacocks and geese and dogs, whatever it is, and so they they bring you in, and for Andy it's a lifestyle. For me it's just something that I do what I can. So that's about where I go with it. I've worked with trying to help legislate, working with Elizabeth Olsen. When I was working with her, we were trying to have ordinances for spay and neutering, which is an extremely hot topic. When you talk about mandatory spay and neutering, that brings out the dog breeders, and the dog breeders are a very powerful and vocal group. I don't believe that you can legislate morality, so we can't make laws to make people good people. We can't make laws to make them care about animals. And everybody has a different viewpoint of things. Certain areas in Asia, they look at dogs one way. You go to India, they look at cows a certain way. So when we come here, we have to expect that some people have higher levels of compassion than others. So it's easier for somebody to say, well, my dog pees on the floor, I got to get rid of it, or I'm allergic to it, or whatever it is. It's easier for some people to give up pets, and we can get caught up on on the stupid excuses that we hear.
What is the most stupid one you've heard?
Oh God, I don't know. It's probably I got a new boyfriend and he doesn't like dogs. So I got to get rid of my dog that I've had since college. So this dog that got you through the hardest times in your life, you got to get rid of it now because, I have a wonderful new wife, and they were not dog people before I came into their life. But she knew that if my dogs didn't go with me, I wasn't going anywhere, and so she accepted that. But and I never even had to say that. She just knew that it was a package deal. And I at the time I had 2 pit bulls. Now I've got same one plus a puppy, a big puppy. But but that's how you have to look at it. It's hard to pass laws to make people want to do stuff, but you still have to have. I think what they're doing it makes me sick seeing puppies for sale at pet stores, and I think that locally it should be passed where they shouldn't be able to do that. And there's enough supply at Humane Society. There's countless rescues in every community. They're not all the big ones. There's a lot of small ones, just with a small group of dedicated people, or one person that might have a rescue, but they might have a list of 50 dogs that they're trying to find homes for. So I think as long as we have that, but people are tied to breeds, and they have to have specific breeds. And I believe that unless it's a breed specific to a service, that, to me, I don't care. I was raised with a golden retriever, but that doesn't. I don't think you should have a dog specifically because of its breed, and I don't think legally that I have any right to tell you that. But it's just, it's insane when somebody says, "Well, I paid $1,000 because I had to have a golden retriever." And there's golden retriever rescues. You can go get one. It's not as cut and dry as that, but they're out there. Pit bulls make amazing dogs. Just like any dog, they, given the wrong background, they can be fierce, and they're very powerful. So when one is not a good dog, there's trouble. But that can happen with any dog. So I'm a huge lover of pit bulls, and so obviously it's an easy topic to veer from. We can cover so many different things, and I need focus. So maybe you can help with that.
I'd like to know about the euthanasia we're talking. The euthanasia that was brought up a little while ago. If you can talk about that for dogs, because I never really knew that existed. The hospice.
Oh yeah,
hospice for dogs.
I had rescued a Chihuahua that was dumped down a drain, and named him Old Man Jenkins. And so he was dumped down a storm drain. He'd been down there for 3 days. And somebody pleaded to me that she knew there was a dog down there. And the fire department said there was no dog, and the police said there was no dog. So I went and ended up, after a couple hours, I found it in a storm drain. And but the dog was blind. It was walking in circles, and I ended up keeping it. However, a friend at the Humane Society reached out and said, if it's too much, we can take it into our hospice care. So it's not everywhere. But, just like there's a lot of rescuers that focus on certain things. Sybil up at Kline Estates in Palm Harbor, she focuses on small dogs. She has a lot of old dogs. So, when somebody says that they're looking for a small dog or an old dog, I say you got to look at Kline Estates. So that's not to say that, there's a hospice everywhere. It might not be real easy to find, but they do exist.
Okay, I'm gonna tell a story now, because everything is coming up against. I had a kitty cat named Sam, and Sam was a rescue, and he was tiny when we got him. He came with Angel. They were both from the same litter. They looked completely different. Sam was a silver Angora fluffy kitty. She was, not so glamorous. And when we first saw Sam, it was skirting across the floor. It looked like a little powder puff running away. And he was always very shy. So we have the silver tabby, long-haired tabby, Sam. It was gorgeous. And he became part of our family, as did Angel. Well, Angel, by the way, it was Sam Spade and his secretary, Angel, from the Sam Spade Detective Mystery. So that's how they got their names. But Sam was if I went out for a walk after dinner, Sam would walk with me like a dog does. He was shy, but he was alert. I can tell you a couple of Sam stories that I thought were very interesting. But so when I started my private practice, for financial reasons, I started it out of my home. And I had a den in my home. I had a nice, lovely home in northwest section of Chicago. And this was his den. It was not used that often. I thought this will be a perfect therapeutic space. So I had it, a man come in and make it, private. So, it was secure and private for clients because I had, a lot of clients of sort of a high profile that they didn't want to go on record. They didn't want to be part of a system where their name would be tagged or anything like that. So privacy was important to them. So here we go one day. It's time for my clients to come. I go into my little office. I shut the door. There's two chairs across from each other, but they're like a love seat kind. There's double, so there's room. There's a table between, and that's very comfortable and very safe and, a nice space. And so my client comes in. It's a woman. She sits down, and she's in trouble. I mean, she's dealing with an alcoholic husband, and she doesn't know what to do. And so we're working on that, and then she just, halfway through the session, she bursts into tears again. Well, Sam was in the room the whole time. He was under my couch, my love seat, and he comes out in a flash and leaps on her lap. And I'm like, oh my God, we both got very startled. And I get up to take Sam away from her, and she says, oh, no, please. And she holds on to him and cries and cries and cries. And of course, I was fine with that. Sam didn't seem to want to get out of her arms, so the experience ended. Well, over time, that was Sam's MO. Whenever I had a client that was emotional or crying or distraught, he would appear and leap on their lap. And he became known as Sam the Therapeutic Cat. And people would come and they'd say to me, is Sam in the room? They wanted to make sure he was there. So so I had to start making sure Sam was in the room. And it was a wonderful experience for them, but it taught me a lot about the empathic nature of animals too, that I didn't, particularly pay attention to at the time, but now I see that that's fairly common, that animals can be very empathic, and they can sense moods, and they can respond and be warm and fuzzy like Sam. So Sam, it was his time, and he was a wonderful cat. He was 18, I think. So I set up, with the help of my daughter, we set up a hospice in my bedroom. He had an IV for fluids, wonderful his little spots, He every time we put in the IV, he purred. He just loved that. But that even got to be, and my daughter said, you're not going to be able to find a vein for him when it's time to go. So we better, it's time to go. So put Sam in my arms, and, he crossed that bridge. But he was purring at the time, and I thought, oh my God, what a wonderful thing for both of us. So he served a valuable purpose in healing others, and that was a significant thing for me. Okay, we're going to shift a few gears now because I am doing too much talking. But I wanted to tell that story because I think it was an important story.
Nice story.
All right, we're going to take a break and we're going to shift a few gears. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We're now going to be talking about the idea of animals and the function in our world as like healers, spiritual animals like Sam, animals that support you in times of need. But also, the idea of that animals do die, and they die usually before their owners. So what do you do with this, and how can you bring these two lines of thought together? So I'm going to let the guys talk, and just they'll be talking about these subjects, and I think it's a very interesting subject that we all need to learn more about. So you're on, guys.
I think one of the things that people have to understand with the no-kill shelters is that no-kill shelters just means someone else is going to be doing it, and that's I don't mean anything against shelters that are no-kill. I personally know at least a couple that are great organizations, but it means also that they don't take in dogs or cats they won't be able to find homes for. So that will go to somebody like Animal Services, the county, and the county will do that. So, but people have this understanding of no-kill shelters are better than other organizations because they don't euthanize animals. But I think it's important that people understand that while they don't, somebody else does, and that can be tough, And when you do stuff like this, and I'd like to know Andy's perspective on it, you kind of have to put up a wall, and you can't get attached to every animal. And people love to follow up with you. What happened to so and so animal? What happened to this? And eventually, you start to forget the specific things, and I think some of it is intentional. You try to not become attached, like farmers tell their kids not to name the cows, and that doesn't mean that you don't care about them, but you just you'll become crippled if you get so attached to everything. And somebody like Andy that has so many animals cross his path, wonder about how you deal with obviously you have to see animals pass away.
Well, I guess we're talking about dogs on this show, but
I'd say in general, though, for you, your thoughts.
It never gets easier. Every death means something to me, as far as any animal. But dogs more so than any animal. Dogs understand us. Dogs know our feelings. Dogs know when you're hurting. Dogs know, dogs have this intelligence to them that, connect with humans, that they sense everything that their owner is going through. At least I feel that with my dogs. So, they, I don't really know where to go with this. But
talk about a story. Tell us a story of a time in your life when an animal was there for you emotionally. You must have a story.
Well, they're always there for me emotionally because, if I'm in a bad mood or something's going wrong or bad, I can crawl in bed with my dog. And, it's just, I've always told people this, the love you get from a dog is just, you get more love. I get more love from a dog than humans, most of the time. It's unconditional love. There's no conditions tied to it. The dog will just be there for you, and it gives me a lot of strength. And I feel good laying with my dogs. So I don't care if there's 1 on me or 10 on me. I can, it was funny. I was at Elizabeth's house last night, and there's 10, 8 of them on me. It's fine, just the more the better, Right. So I as far as an emotional thing, to me, it just they help with all kinds of emotions, whether you're depression or anxiety. Two different emotions there. I think a dog in general just helps humans with that.
Okay, and I understand completely because Miss Nina was I called her my little icebreaker, my bodyguard. She served in many roles in my life. But you brought up a subject as you were talking. I thought let's talk about the fudging on service dogs. Let's talk a minute about that. What is legit? It's one thing to have your dog as an emotional support dog, because you're tired or but there's another level of care that dogs get, and when they become service dogs, it's a very focused function.
I think we've taken advantage of it, and I first became introduced into this when I had rescued 2 pit bulls when I first got into rescue, and I had a problem with my apartment complex, or condo complex, and they said I couldn't have pit bulls. So I had people sending me information on where to go to get them certified as service dogs. One of these was a bait dog, and the other one was dog aggressive. I could technically say I needed them emotionally, but the reality is that I just needed them to be service dogs so that I could keep them. And I considered it, but I didn't think that that was right. They weren't service dogs. They were just a couple dogs that I rescued. And it's been taken too far, because now you hear somebody brought a peacock on a plane because it was a service peacock or something like that. It was a bird, I believe. But just like so many things, people take advantage of it, so then it ruins it for people that do legitimately need animals like that. So I think that you have to be responsible about it and not take advantage of it.
Okay, let me ask a question, because this is my field now. If somebody has like PTSD or major depressive episodes or severe anxiety, do you feel, I think that they absolutely have to have a support dog. But how does one, is it fair to say then that that there should be a different guidelines for service dogs, ones that require a psychiatric diagnosis or ones that make it harder to say, I've got a service peacock or whatever?
I don't even think it's an issue. I think that it's an issue of people trying to skirt the system, making it an issue. But if you have a legitimate issue, your doctor should be able to say, this person needs this service animal. You shouldn't be able to mail away for a certificate.
Well, that's my question.
And you shouldn't be taking a pet that you already have and turning it into a service dog, because that's what you're talking about. People wanting to skirt the system and make their dog a service dog so they can take it inside restaurants with them, on planes, whatever. But there are big organizations out there that breed and raise service dogs.
Well, talk about that.
My cousin does this for years. She takes in a puppy, and it's through one of these. I don't know the organization. I don't know the name, but there's several of them around. They raise dogs for emotional issues. They raise dogs for the blind. They raise dogs for different whatever
the critical issue is.
Yeah, and the dog specifically raised for that, and they train for that. Whether it's going to be a service dog for the blind or a service dog that has to be there for an elderly person to remind it to take its medications, or whatever the reason the dog is there. She's part of an organization that takes the puppy. I don't know how she does it, but she takes a puppy, like a lab or whatever. There's certain specific dogs that are better than others for that. And she takes it for about 4 months old, and she raises it to about a year old. And they go to continual classes, and they meet with other people in the organizations, and they have to take the dogs to certain events and be out in the public all the time. The dog has to stay on the leash. It has to, really is strict rules on how the dog, can't interact with other dogs. It can't play with other dogs. It's specifically raised to be a service dog. Now that's a legitimate reason, and that's if you need a service dog for emotional needs, you need to look out for go to some of these organizations that raise dogs specifically for those needs.
I hear you.
You just can't take your cute little puppy and turn it into a service dog.
Oh, but let me be a devil's advocate. I got it.
Okay.
I understand completely, but I'm going to be a devil's advocate in one session. I've got my dog I love. I love my dog. I go skiing. I break my neck. I'm still alive. I come home. I still love my dog. That becomes my service dog or not. Do you follow me? I mean, I hear you and I understand exactly what you're saying, but there are situations where somebody already has a dog in their life and they get unable, something happens.
I think that's probably the exception more than anything. And I don't know if you would probably take something like that on a case-by-case basis, but because something is important to you doesn't mean it's of service to you. And it just keeps going through my head when I went out to Venice Beach a few years ago, and there were all these like 20-year-old kids dressed up in doctors hanging out on the sidewalk saying, "Hey, come in for your free marijuana evaluation to see if you need marijuana. And you know that you're going to go in, you're going to pay $40, and they're going to say, yep, you've got depression or you've got anxiety, and you really just want to get high. It's the same thing. So many of these people, they just want to bring their animal. They don't need the animal. They're just saying, oh, yeah, I need it for depression. And who's not depressed? And I think everybody can say, I've got depression, I've got anxiety. But does that mean that you should be able to bring a random pet around, and especially pushing it where you're now bringing peacocks on planes?
Okay, I agree. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just...
It goes along with, it's very easily, if you want to be lazy about it and you want to park in the disability spots at the malls and be right up front, you just go down to the tag office, wherever you go, and you pay $100 for that disability sticker. And anybody can get it, put it on their car.
Well, they might get shot too.
But if you got the money and want to spend $100, you get the permit on your car. It doesn't mean people take advantage of it.
But when you've seen a working dog, you get respect for them. And my wife runs a Boston Marathon, and you go down to the finish line and you see those working dogs with the police. I mean, those dogs are highly trained, and they do it too for blind and all sorts of truly service dogs where. There's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 worth of training in those dogs.
Okay, I'm just going to beat this drum a little bit more. I'm a GI. I've had this dog. He was my love of my life. He was my dog. I got drafted or I enlisted or whatever. And I get PTSD. I come home. My dog is still there. My dog senses my problems. He's very responsive, like Sam was. Is that not a service dog at that point?
Well, if your doctor says it's a service dog, and that's where I'm at. If your doctor okays it, then PTSD is a strong thing, and I would in that case say yeah. But
Okay.
I'm not the one to dictate whether or not you should or shouldn't have a service dog. A doctor should be.
Okay, I'm just raising these issues because, I think it's controversial. And,
Well, we get back to people, that really need it and people that take advantage of it because they want to have their dog with them sitting in a restaurant. You just, I think if that happens and it is your dog and you've had your dog prior to the tragedy, whatever you go through, maybe the dog should go through some sort of training through an organization for that specific need, get some sort of certification, because that's what those dogs get. They get a certification coming out of those schools, and that they know how to work with those type of people with certain injuries or certain whatever they got to deal with. But maybe the dog should go through something like that to get the vest, to legally get the vest on its back. And
if you're talking about military though and PTSD, you're dealing with a therapist ideally. If you broke your neck, you should be probably having a therapist get you through everything. So I think those are legitimate cases. There's just other cases where sometimes life just means you can't bring your dog everywhere, and just because it's 2018 and we think we're entitled to everything doesn't mean that, and I love dogs. I truly love dogs, but I don't bring my dogs everywhere because it's not appropriate, and I respect other people, and so.
Okay. So I think we're getting into a sociological issue, as you say, to 2018, the year of entitlement, okay? So I think some of this is about entitlement, some of this is about legitimate, and I think what I'm getting from both of you on this subject is, the idea of having some outside entity say, yeah, this is legit. No, this isn't legit. To having some sort of governance, but not big government. I don't mean that, but to have clearer guidelines, to have clearer rules, to shut down puppy mills as a prevention. We never did really get into the mandatory neutering. We brought it up, but we didn't go there. And in the time that's left, can we talk about mandatory neutering? Okay.
Yeah. You have to have a cultural shift. You can't legislate mandatory spay and neutering. And you can try it, and we tried, and we even tried to do a hybrid version of it. So it wasn't mandatory, but there were incentives for it. And it's tough. It'll bring out the dog breeders, and the dog breeders are a tough group of people.
Thank you. I forgot that we talked briefly on that, but I wanted to hear Andy's opinion too, and then we're going to close the show about the idea of mandatory neutering.
Well, it should be mandatory neutering.
Go ahead.
Turn your phone off? I turn mine off.
It's not mine.
Yeah.
So mandatory neutering. I don't really know how
We
I feel
actually-
about that subject, because there are legitimate breeders out there that breed quality dogs, and they do provide a service for specific breeds, and as long as the person getting the dog goes directly to the breeder and there is no puppy mills going on, and the breeder's breeding a quality dog, and the person that wants the dog meets the breeder, meets the male, the dad, the mom, and I just think that's okay. I just think that's okay. That type of breeding is fine, and there is a need for that type of breeding, but it has nothing to do with puppy mills and all that going on.
Okay. Well, that's a good distinction. That's a good distinction. We're winding down. It's been very, very interesting. I appreciate your insights and your feedback and the subjects that came up. They're all significant to dog lovers and dog owners and society in general. I was going to ask you before we end, Andy, if you would share a little bit about, you've got your 1 minute of fame. Talk about the animal rescue and how people can help you.
Okay, so Odessa Wildlife, we've been rescuing dogs, cats, and other animals, farm animals, exotic animals for a while now, but we became a nonprofit 501c about 3.5 years ago to help us make awareness and educate people. We bring people out to our facility, our sanctuary, with tours, feeding tours, educational tours. You can come out and have a private tour with me, and we get inside each animal's habitat, and you get to hold the animals, touch them, feed them, learn about the different animals we have over there. I try to give you as much education as you can. But, as far as us, we keep building more habitats for more animals that keep coming in. We have the land to continue to do that at the moment. I don't know when that'll end. But as far as helping us, you can get to our Facebook page or our website, and we have GoFundMes and different ways you can help our organization and help us with our needs with feeding the animals and caring for them.
Okay, Andy, you need to spell out the name of the organization so they can find you online.
Well, if you do hashtag OWRS for Odessa Wildlife Rescue and Sanctuary, you'll pretty much find us everywhere on Google. But it's Odessa Wildlife Rescue and Sanctuary. And our website is odessawildlife.org.
And what's the phone number?
It's 813-792-5454.
Okay, one last question. These tours are group and private and everything. Is there a fee for them?
We ask for a donation, and that's explained on the website.
Okay.
What we expect for a donation to come in and have a private tour.
I'm thinking of a private tour. Is there a better time, a day or year, or how does it organize?
Well, in the winter, we'll do them all day long. And when it's winter, spring, and the weather's nice, during the summer, we start them off at like 9 in the morning. They last about 2.5 hours.
And good.
So that's in the summers it's too brutal in the afternoon for me and the tour guides and the people. It's
Absolutely.
No fun. Yeah.
Now I'm listening and I'm thinking about a tour, but I have no idea where it is. Where are you?
We're in Odessa, Florida, which is up near Tarpon Springs. The address is 18404 Rustic Woods Trail, Odessa.
Okay.
So we get a lot of tourists in town that are coming into Odessa, are coming into Tarpon Springs, and we get lots of tourists that go to Tarpon Springs for the day, and they'll come over and see our place, then go back to Tarpon Springs to visit and go around the sponge docks and stuff. So I even, people that do come to us found us on the internet, for wildlife activity tours, whatever. I send them right over to Tarpon Springs if they've never seen it, and give them a little.
Why not?
Let them see what Tarpon Springs is all about. It's a fun little town. So we're about 10 minutes from there.
I remember Gilbert Roland in The Sponge Diver.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a movie. It was my first movie.
Yeah. Great little town.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I would just say the same. Give to Andy. All my rescues are one-offs, so I don't need any money right now per se. Just as we rescue animals, we raise money, and so I always like to have anyone that I can support Andy and what he's doing over there. It's a fantastic place. I mean, it really is.
Tell me your impression of the place.
I have. It's like Disney, but it's authentic. It's really cool. The Coati Mondays, or raccoons, a fox, I don't even know the kind of cattle that you have, like Himalayan something or Russian.
Well, miniature zebus, and we also have the long hair Scottish Highlands.
Yeah. I mean, those guys
a lot of these
awesome.
animals have come from breeders, and we can go into breeding again with other type of animals, and I don't want to talk about that
like pigs. Like pigs?
Pigs and animals. A lot of our animals have come from actual breeders that the breeders discard the animals right away once they realize they're not good for their breeding programs. They have imperfections, whatever. I've got pheasants that come out, exotic birds. They have crooked toes. This breeder says I can't sell them for the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. It's got crooked toes. I'm just gonna destroy it or feed it to my other animals. That's what a lot of these breeders do. It's awful, but I go ahead and take everything that any other breeder doesn't want. Just because it's not perfect for the breeding program, I'll go ahead and take it and give them a forever home. So that's kind of what we do and help breeders too.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Dusty, I do want you to talk about your critter business in case people have a critter.
Sure.
Okay.
Creepy Creatures, Pest and Wildlife. It's creepycreatures.net or .com. Both of them will work. And we try to find humane solutions when animals get into addicts or tear up yards. We try to avoid trapping. We're really trying to change the industry, but trappers are an old breed, and trappers like to trap. So I'm kind of the only trapper that first tries to talk people out of hiring us, and then the only trapper that does it without trapping in many cases. So
how do people find you?
creepycreatures.net or 727-488-5657.
Okay, great. Thank you, both of you. I apologize for my froggy voice, but in my cell phone ringing, but like somebody said, Valva, I feel I'm at a kitchen table with you. And these things happen at kitchen tables, so I'm okay with them. Thank you. My guests have been amazing. I'm thrilled that they're here sharing. Please get out your checkbook for Odessa. And you know what? I'm going to plan a private tour as I'm sitting here wanting to go there all this time and never doing it. And for some reason, I thought you were in Mayaca, and you're up in Tarpon Springs. I thought that blew me away. So I'm glad I asked that question, as suddenly it seems like a little bit closer to me. So thank you very, very much. You're both wonderful people, and I wish there were more of you on this earth. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about life.